Um, Welcome to today's reading. I'd like to start actually by just giving a few words of thanks. I would like to thank the Port Fairy Book Festival for the opportunity to present my material today. I would also like to thank Mary Kerr at the back for her kind introduction, and I would also like to thank, before I begin, Don Stewart over here, who's my right-hand man. And you'll be hearing some audio tracks throughout this presentation, and Don is the mastermind behind the music of those tracks, and the novel that's coming out in November is a novel, but it also comes with a CD, and the CD has a series of spoken word and songs on it, which were composed largely by Don. I'm going to start with a poem called Words for a Funeral. Words, limp words, polished and scrubbed words, whispered words, angry words, religious words, well-meant words, and hemorrhaged words poured out onto the floor. Words after the death of the person are never enough. Words can never know a man, mourn a man, sum up a man, or hold a man in arms that won't let go. Words catch and cling to your throat, like cigarette smoke in a crowded room, or like bread eaten too thick, too quick, and without water. Words fill up the spaces left by the dead, but words are never enough. No, words are never enough. Words come from priests, friends, lovers, brothers, but rarely from the little child left behind, the one who stands pressed in tight against the warmth of her mother's leg. Words come and go. Yes, words come and go. In and out like waves upon the sand. As you lie awake at night, feeling the aftershock still, you know the tsunami comes. Alone in your room with the lights out, you wait for the surge to hit and wash away all the goddamn noise. A giant wave of salted tear to smash and break upon your shore and leave you floating adrift in that silent space, in that wordless space, now damp with memory. That poem was written a number of years ago. Thanks. And the reason I've started today's session with that poem is that I wanted to focus actually on the theme of Father's Day. And we live in a society in which Father's Day is rightfully honoured, and it's, generally speaking, for most people presented as a time of celebration and joy. And that is a proper thing to happen in our world, absolutely. But I think what gets neglected at Father's Day is often Father's Day for other people is not a time of joy and celebration. And I thought today, in reading you some poetry, that I might explore that territory. Now I'm going to go through some fairly dark material, but have heart because at the end I'm going to emerge with something a bit more hopeful. Now in particular, this poem was written after the death of a workmate at Emmanuel College, Dennis Wilson. I claim no great relationship with Dennis. I didn't know him very well. I wasn't a close friend. But what the poet's job is to name things that happen around them and to try and find the truth in what's happening. And at my workplace at that time, Dennis Wilson was a well-loved person, had lots of friends, and there was a grief that was unspeakable. It was a powerful thing to witness. And my poem, I think, tries to lay witness to that at that time. Because what I saw around me was grieving people. Dennis had left a young child behind, and you would have seen reference to that in the poem. Words are not enough. And for a lot of people in society, when it comes to Father's Day, their experience of Father's Day is one of grief. They've lost a father, lost somebody to guide them. So I think it's important that we think about that. Another theme with Father's Day is fathers who perhaps do not live up to the role that is invested in them. And I want to explore that, the absent father. For a lot of people waking up on Father's Day, the experience is one of where is my father? So I'm going to read from my debut novel, which is coming out in November, The Taste of Apple. And the novel itself tracks the story of a young boy. His mother's a Filipino woman. He has an Australian male father. The father is distant. He is absent largely. I'm going to read two segments. One is from when he's age 10, and the next one's from when he's age 16. And they're living and growing up in Melbourne. First poem, Playing Ball. You're dead. Chris Reed jabs the barrel of the plastic M16 hard into my ribcage and raises his voice in victory. A rattling train thunders overhead like artillery fire. Jono, Blake, hey, over here, the last one's over here. Two boys, slightly shorter than Chris, materialise like ghosts from behind a picket fence. They glide, shadow silent, into formation beside their fearless leader. I crouch, head bent, inside my dugout of rubbish bins, cardboard boxes and milk crates, a defeated soldier. An old eucalypt branch wilts in my fingers. It's a gun, falling to the ground as Amy Reed, my 80-year-old teammate, trundles over from the curbside, a guilty look on her face. I stare back and forth at Amy, the turncoat, and Chris, the enemy. Over and over again, muscles tightening. My pulse throbs like a burst of bullets in my ears, until suddenly I pull the pin and the words explode from my mouth. Stop cheating, you prick! And that's how I got the scar. High above my right eye. Chris Reed, his henchmen, a smashed toy gun, and a battle of tracks. 7. The silver-top taxi pulls into the Austin Hospital car park and Mum and me climb into the back. Waiting in the front passenger seat is Dad, who takes his eyes off the ticking meter and glances back at the 7 stitches laid out above my bruised and right swollen eye. Banksia Street, he says to the taxi driver, returning his gaze to the meter. As we drive down Bell Street, Dad mutters something, a question. His words thread their way through the wounded and silent spaces of the taxi, tying up my thoughts. I press my head against the cool glass of the passenger window and stare out to the darkness. 7 stitches, 7 words. So what happened to the other kid? Blessed art thou. Steady, sturdy, soft, straight hands. Mum lights a candle in my darkened room and places it under the icon of St. Peter on my desk. Shuffling over to my bedside, she falls, bare the light to her knees. The smell of flowering jasmine wafts through the window, lifting me to a better place. She dabs at the blood-clogged stitches above my right eye with a warm, wet cloth. Then places the wrapped fabric back into the seeming bowl of water by her side. Mum's left hand enters her pocket, returning with rattles and clinks, wrapped around her fingers, a jangled web of rosary beads. The crystal edges and silvery links catch the flickering light, staring my eye. Your name means rock, Pedro, just like St. Peter, she whispers. You're my rock, Pedro. Don't you forget that. I look up at Mum's face, bathed in golden candlelight, and manage a smile. Her lips start to move as once tedious words pour from her mouth like honey. My eyes grow heavy and my head sinks deeper into the pillow. Under my doona, I turn on my side and curl up tight into a ball. A wet, warm cloth strokes the side of my face, wiping away my troubles. Sleep swallows up the night. After midnight. They're fighting in the kitchen. My sister Delisay turns up the radio in her room, but I can still hear their voices. You never hear, he needs you, John. You're always at work, in your shed, at the pokies, but never here. Mum speaks strange words tonight. Stranger words than I've ever heard before. I picture her on her favourite kitchen stool, lighting a fresh cigarette, fingers trembling. Dad doesn't respond. The fly screen creaks open and his measured footsteps click-clack their way down the garden path towards the shed. It's after midnight. Dogs are barking at the moon. And outside my window, the jasmine vine rustles in a dark spring breeze. Lying in wait. Dad's waiting for you in the shed. Mum grabs my milk-splashed breakfast bowl, wipes clean the placemat, and returns to the sink, ignoring the look of shock on my face. As I walk to the shed, I double-check my shoelaces, my shirt buttons, and smile before knocking. "Come in, Pedro," Dad calls. I push open the door and step into Dad's place. My eyes dart around. In one corner, there's a leather recliner, coffee table, and a reading lamp. To the left is a little glass cupboard full of spirits. And right beside that, a bar fridge purring like a satisfied cat. At the other end of the shed is a drop saw, a workbench, and a wall panel covered in assorted hand tools. Each tool neatly hung and bordered by hand-drawn lines. And along the back wall, there's a heavy green curtain covering up something big. Dad steps over to the workbench and looks down at a rifle lying on top. The rifle's made of polished wood and black ice steel. Picks it up. The stitches above my right eye start to throb as Dad swings the gun in my direction. The rifle. The rifle feels heavy as Dad places it in my hands. It's a .22 caliber Winchester. I used to go rabbiting with it as a boy. Dad leads me over to the workbench and points. "Place it down there on that long piece of pine." I put the rifle down and Dad takes a pencil, carefully tracing an outline onto the wood. "You better sit down and get comfortable," Dad says, pointing to the recliner. For the next 3 hours, I watched Dad measure, saw, plane, chisel, and sand in silence. I sit there dreaming of my new gun and the look on Chris Reed's face the next time we play war. Mum calls for lunch, but Dad ignores her. He lifts the wooden rifle to his shoulder and looks down the finely sanded barrel. He grabs a short length of polypipe from the cover box, screws it to the top, a sniper scope. I look up with big saucer eyes at my skillful Dad as he runs his fingers over the surface of his new creation, looking for faults. "Perfect," he says. "Perfect. Perfect." At lunchtime, I eat everything Mum throws down at me. The wooden rifle rests on my lap, smooth to touch. A perfect lunch. A perfect day.